Hello, I'm Anneliese from Eye Candy Quilts, and today I want to talk to you about pantograph edge-to-edge quilting versus custom quilting and when or why you should do one or the other. Hello, I'm Anneliese from Eye Candy Quilts. Okay, like I said, we're going to talk about quilting. So quilting doesn't refer to the piecing of your top. So quilting, it refers to, it's what makes it a quilt. It's the stitches that hold your top, your batting, and your backing together. That's what makes it a quilt. So on Eye Candy Quilts, and this is just my preference, Eye Candy Quilts preference, what we do. All of this is always with a grain of salt with what you like and want to do. So as far as Eye Candy Quilts goes for our quilts, and you know, we're quilters for us first before we're quilters for making a pattern or doing whatever. So whenever we look at a quilt, we try and think of a couple different things. So first of all, okay, and here's the other fun part. So edge-to-edge pantograph quilting generally is going to be cheaper than custom quilting. And I really can't think of an exception for that. So custom quilting is going to cost more because someone is figuring out something specific for you, and you know, not for any bad reason. It's just, it's more work. So you pay someone for their work and their ideas and their artistry and learning how to do the whole thing. You pay more. It was like, and that's not a bad thing. You just pay more for custom quilting. So all of this that follows is just to say, if we had $1 bajillion for every quilt, we would still probably have some quilts that are edge to edge quilted, because sometimes it just works better for the quilt. So like I was saying, when we've got a quilt top done, and you know, money is no object, time is no object, we can do whatever we want. There are a couple things that we think about when we figure out what we want to do to quilt it. The number one thing is, will custom quilting enhance the style or the design of the quilt? So there's a couple of things where, if you have a sort of secondary pattern happening with the blocks, will that become more apparent with custom quilting? If you have a big color difference between, you know, if it's a two-color quilt, if you have just like a red and white quilt and you don't want white on the red and red on the white or something like that, is that going to make a difference to you? So will the quilting change the overall look of the quilt, or enhance the overall look of the quilt, enhance the pattern design that you're doing? So here's one quilt where we did custom quilting that I think really helps the pattern. Hold on a second. This is parquet. Parquet, our parquet quilt is, the custom quilting is fun because it enhances that sashing and pulls it into the block. So it creates that zigzag that was really fun that we were looking at when we were designing it and piecing it. It emphasizes that aspect of it. So that's, then this was quilted by Vicki Rubel of Orchid Owl Quilts, and I'll link to her stuff. But that's a case where custom quilting helped enhance the pattern. So let's look at something where it's an edge to edge, where if we're not enhancing the pattern, why would we do an edge to edge? Well, possibly just because of the style of the quilt. Because like it seems to be that I don't like the modern label just because it's not my thing. I don't like I'm a quilter first. We make quilts first. I like bright colors, so you know, there's always that. But the modern quilts that go in the modern category or shows and different things, there's for example, my quilt, tuberose quilts that got into QuiltCon, that's a full-on 80 inches of applique quilt that has edge-to-edge quilting on it. So if it's a more modern style, it seems like edge-to-edge fits more easily in that style. Edge-to-edge patterns can be anything. It was like there's not just one sort of edge-to-edge style. It's not only geometric. It's not only feathers. There's thousands and thousands of edge-to-edge patterns, but they seem to me pull, or at least when I do them, it's because my quilts go a little bit towards more modern. But I do it on baby quilts, and that's not a big thing. Speaking of, here's a baby quilt that is edge-to-edge. Hold on. So this is a Diamante quilt, and the original is a red and white and turquoise quilt, and that was fully custom by Vicky Rubel. This seems to be the Vicky Rubel show too, but that's okay. We send a lot of our quilts to Orchidal. Anyway, so this is one where, because the red and white one was a little bit more solid, this with the big prints, the edge to edge helps a little bit more. Pull it all together. The other thing with this quilt is, when you think about the quilting, maybe think of the end use. So this one is a quilt for the gremlin, so it's a baby quilt, so it needs to be it's going to be used and abused, at least that's the goal. So if it's edge to edge quilting, then it's not going to matter if it gets washed. I haven't spent a whole bunch of money on it. So thinking of the end use is another way to think about whether or not you're going to have it custom quilting or not. So let's look at a quilt that is, I have two versions of the quilt, and one version is edge to edge and one version is custom. So let's look at that. Okay, so these little guys, Fierce Conifer, so our very popular conifer pattern. What's fun, so this quilt, and you can tell that I don't have the binding done on this yet. That's okay. Binding's not my favorite part. Anyway, so this is the cover quilt, and it is Allison Glass Fabrics for Holiday line, and it was custom quilted, and so all the background is quilted with ruler work, and then each pine cone, pine tree is custom. So this is actually the scrappy version with one background and then all sorts of different trees. They're snowy trees. But this was edge to edge quilted with snowflakes and swirls. So aside from being, different colors, you get a very different effect. I was like, this is partially because of the colors, but partially because of the quilting pattern. Anything with lines tends to read more modern, which sounds weird, but it does. So this just looks very, very different than the edge-to-edge quilting one. So edge-to-edge quilting, custom quilting. Okay, so the key things to think about when you're trying to decide whether or not to have your quilt top custom quilted or to have it sent to be edge-to-edge quilted with the pantograph is, one, will the quilting enhance the design, a secondary pattern, some aspect of your quilt? Number two, what is the end use of your quilt? It was like, if it's a baby quilt, if it's something that's going to be thrown on the yard for picnics, rough and tumble, always thrown in the dryer, maybe edge to edge quilting might be better. Number three, edge to edge quilting can also sort of go with number one, will it enhance a quilt pattern? Edge to edge quilting can also sort of unify a quilt pattern. So if you have, for example, that black and white and yellow quilt, the Diamante I showed you, it's got a lot of big, crazy, different prints in it. They're the same colors, but it's pretty all over the place. So edge to edge quilting also unifies the pattern. And the other thing too is the last part is what sort of style you're going for. To me, if your edge-to-edge quilting can go very modern or very traditional, just like traditional or custom quilting can go very modern or very traditional. So what style you're going for, to me it's more modern to edge quilt something that is intricate versus custom quilting something intricate. That custom quilting something that's intricate that leads a little bit more traditional for me. So it's just what look style you're going for. And that's not to say that those cross over different ways, and you know, every quilter has their own style and different things that they could point you to. Or show them pictures of what you like. Always talk to your quilter about what you want, so you know you're both happy. Anyway, so I hope that gives you an idea of what to think about and what to look for when you're taking your quilt to the quilter. So whether or not you edge to edge quilt it or you custom quilt it, you need to love it in the end. So I hope you do the one that's right for you. Thanks for following along. I'm Anneliese from Eye Candy Quilts, rambling at you from my basement. Bye guys.